Good evening, everybody. How are we this Wednesday evening? It's the 1st of December. Have you opened your little door on your advent calendar yet? Me and my daughter have already. We've scoffed the chocolate. It's gone. Good evening, then. Yes, it is the 1st of December. I'm Andy Bennett. There I am. And I am admin and runner of the Home Baking Business Community UK, and also the Home Baking Professionals Society. Or you may be coming to me, you may be watching me on my Facebook page, Annie Bennett Business. Hello, Lucy. Hooray. Do say hello if you're watching. I do like it when people say hello. It makes me all warm and fluffy. So hello, Lucy. Thank you for saying hello. I'm not sure how long my voice will last today. Do you know, yesterday evening, I spent the evening all sort of shivery and thinking, oh no, this is evening. This is not good. My daughter has been ill the past week with throat and, and all sorts. And she had a COVID test and it was negative, so that's good. But last night I was thinking, oh no. Even more so that I've got 2 wedding cakes this week. And I thought, oh my God, if it's COVID, then all hell let loose. But I feel a lot better today. But I went and had a COVID test anyway, just to double check. So if it comes back saying I have got COVID, I'm just going to have to go to plan B and I'll work that out if I need to. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. So my voice is a little weird. It's doing that thing. So I've got my tea, just in case. So this evening, I am talking to you about markets and fairs, because it looks like a lot of you, this is great, a lot of you are going to be selling or trading at various Christmas fairs and markets. And some of you might be thinking about doing, something a bit more regular into next year. Absolutely fabulous. I've got my notes here, so excuse me if I'm sort of, I'm looking all over the place because I want to make sure I get it all right. By the way, everything I'm saying tonight, I'm using the notes from my blog, and there'll be a link go up in the Home Baking Business Community UK group. So you can get to my blog, which has everything I'm saying written down, and it also has a few links that I'll tell you about as I go through. So that's, that's for you to have a look at and read at your leisure. Lucy, I made some brownies this week and I didn't have a brownie pan, so I put it in a cake tin. So one brownie cake. It's still one brownie though, isn't it? Yeah, I only had one brownie. Alex, hi Alex. Nice to see you here. I hope you are well. Right, so selling at markets and fairs. I did a lot of that when I first set my business up. I must have done it for 2 or 3 years. I skipped around various markets, finding the right one, stayed a long time at some and only a very short while at some others for various reasons. But I did find it really set me up as a business, because there are 2 main reasons to do a market. And I'll say market all the way through. I won't say markets and fairs. So market, read fair as well. There are 2 main reasons. One is obviously to sell goods and make some money. And the other is to get your name known, to get your local area, to get people in your local area knowing who you are. Okay, so we'll come on to that a little bit more. Oh, you've been cleared. Oh, Alex, fabulous. Back to work in the new year. Oh, that's wonderful. Good news. Good news. So I have this evening. Oh, sorry, let me take that off because it's hurting my head. I have this evening 10 tips. Oh, let all the nits out. 10 tips for you for selling at markets and fairs. Okay. So number 1, the first one, is to make sure you're prepared or you've done all the groundwork before you start. In particular, I'm talking about insurance. Most market managements, people that run the markets, will want to see your insurance or will want you to be insured, usually to 5 million public liability. Okay. I'm hoping that most of you as businesses will have public liability. But if you are thinking of, selling at markets as well, you would just need to check that you're covered. So just contact your insurers. And yeah, I would up it to 5 million. It shouldn't cost too much. It's not very expensive. If you are selling at something like a school fete or a PTA, the chances are they're not going to be that on the ball as regards insurance. Just be come along and sell your things, but it's still a good idea to have it, because if there's an accident on your table or something that you do causes a problem, then you want to make sure you're covered. So I would highly recommend you do that. Okay. Some market, and this is sort of in my experience, having traded at quite a few markets and been in contact with lots of management, quite a few will want to see your hygiene award. If you haven't got it, if you haven't been inspected yet, or you've got an awaits inspection or whatever, just give them proof that you're registered. That's generally what most of them want to see. They want to see that you're registered, so those are the kinds of things that market traders want to see. Now, if you're doing a market, for example, in a town, or you're doing a market somewhere set up by someone, and the management don't want to see any of that, they don't ask about any of that, I would be honest, I would be quite wary of actually going to that market and selling at that market, because if the organization isn't if they're not that organized, what's going to happen if something goes wrong? With the exception, say, of schools and possibly churches who might have a different way of doing it, but any other markets, just make sure that you're covered. Oh, hi Nicola, hello, lovely. So that's number one. Make sure you've got all the documents. Oh, and a risk assessment as well. Some markets will ask you for a risk assessment, and if you look at my blog, there's downloadable one in there, and I think there's also one in the home baking business community in the files. So it just goes through the kinds of things that the kind of risks that there are and what you'll do to make sure that they're safe. Okay. Secondly, what you need to do is find out what is provided in terms of tables and chairs and things. Some markets, all you get is the space. You have to take the chair, the gazebo, the table, the gazebo, the chair, every single thing. For some, they might provide the gazebo and you have to take a table. For some, it might be that there are market stalls already there and you just turn up. So make sure you know what is going to be there. What you don't want to do is get there and find that you've got to stand up all day, because that really is not fun. I used to take little fold-up chairs that went in my car quite easily. So make sure what there is. If you're providing a gazebo, so organised markets will make sure that you've got weights, that they're not a public hazard, that kind of thing. I must admit, I didn't trade at many markets that wanted gazebos because it was such a faff. Getting them out, putting them up, putting the weights on, all that kind of stuff. I must admit, I did avoid those ones. I did a few, but oh dear. If you're on your own doing it, it does take time. Yes, so table. If they're providing a table, it's worth knowing how big it is so that you can work out what your display is going to be, because it's a good idea to work that out before the morning or before the day, so that you're not faffing about moving things about too much. You might change one or two things, but get an idea of where everything's going to go before the day. Then it saves a lot of time. What else have I got here? Oh yes, electricity. Do you need electricity for anything? Some markets will provide it, some charge extra for it. If it's like a school fair in a hall, are you near a plug, for example? They might have rules as to things that you bring into school. Are they PAT tested? Are they safe? So check all that. If you need electricity, just check all that. Okay. What else? Oh yeah, have you got a covering for your table, a tablecloth? I used to have a big green, like wipeable one, which looked quite good. It was my brand color of green, and that used to come out every time. And then I used to be able to like disinfect it and put it away for next time. And I found that, I think, on eBay, wipe clean tablecloth, that kind of thing. So if you know the size of the table, you know what kind of covering or cloth you need. All right. I think that's all for that. So that's number 2, find out what's provided and what you need to take. And then for number 3, my third tip is getting all the other essentials sorted. You'll need some kind of hand washing facility. Again, if you're doing like a school hall or a church hall, the chances are there'll be, hand washing there. But just be wary, because if it's, a small loo with a tiny little sink and there's going to be hundreds of people there, you don't want to be relying on that. You want your own source of just a little bowl and a flask with some warm water in it so that you can wipe your hands. You can use gloves. Don't rely too much on gloves, though, because they get dirty too, of course, unless you're going to have a different pair of gloves each time. I used to use tongs, different, tongs for mine, so I didn't use gloves at all. Yes, bags for rubbish and waste. I learned this one fairly quickly. I got myself a roll of those bags that have got the handles on, and then I found on eBay some little metal hooks so I could hook it onto my table, and then I would just have like my rubbish bag, and any bits and pieces would go in there. It's quite a useful thing to have. Yes, so that keeps your table and your display tidy. Okay, so those are sort of the essential things, your hygiene things, your hand washing, and disposing of any rubbish that you've got. Okay. Number four thinking about your display. It took me ages to get this right, and even then I didn't get it right really at all. I'd go to markets and see these amazing displays that other people had, and I can never quite get it the same as others. But one thing I did learn fairly quickly that other traders taught me was make sure you've got different heights of things on your stall. If everything is just flat, it's not as interesting to look at. Take some boxes, or take something so that some of your things can be higher up. Have higher up at the back, which is actually quite useful, because then you can like put your cash box inside things and hide it. And then things lower down at the front, so that someone walking past can see, a display. They're not having to look onto it. Does that make sense? Do ask questions, by the way. If you've got any questions on any of the points, do ask, feel free. When I was doing markets, it was obviously before, well, it wasn't obviously, but it was before the COVID things happened. So there was sort of less, people were less worried about spreading germs, although some people wouldn't buy from stalls where the things weren't covered. My things generally were. They weren't to start with, but I bought some cabinets and made sure they were, because of the feedback I got about things not being covered up. So I got some, I've still got them actually somewhere. They're blooming heavy things. Some Perspex like cabinets. In fact, if you look at my blog, you'll probably see a picture of them, with little sort of flaps where I'd open and sort of tong things out. So I'd have those. You can buy sneeze guards to stop, things getting onto things. Or it might be that you have a display sort of open of samples of your goodies, but then you have everything that you're actually going to give to the customer in boxes. So if they say, oh, I want 2 of those, you then go and find 2 of those in your box and hand them over. That's another way of doing it. It might be that your customers might like to actually choose exactly the one they want, in which case that's not a good way of doing it, but it might be one way of doing it. But whichever way you choose, think about the eye appeal of your stall. Yeah, what is going to make someone stop at your stall and not walk straight on past? Yeah, what's eye-catching about it? I made the mistake one one market, it's quite memorable, this one. I decided, I don't quite know why I decided this, but I decided to bag up, and this was before the labeling, bag up all of my bits and pieces. So at that time I was making like brownies and flapjack and millionaire shortbread and those kind of things. And I bagged them all up into little bags with like a clear front, and I laid them all out on my market stall. I sold, I think, 2 all day because people just didn't, it wasn't attractive. People weren't drawn to it. It was a table full of bags. And it, it made me realize that actually the eye appeal of a stall is absolutely vital. You want to get the people drawn to you, and then they will think about buying. If they're not going to come anywhere near, then you've lost them from the beginning, really. Think about what else you're going to have. At Christmas, it's ideal. You can perhaps have a little Christmas tree. You can have some decorations, little lights, all sorts of things. I used to take some little, my little pals with me. So I had a little donkey, one of those beanie donkeys with like beans in its bottom, and it would sit on the cabinet. And at Easter I had a little duck, and that kind of thing. Things that children like, because children will stop and say, oh, look at that, and their parents will then be drawn as well. So think about everything that's going to be attractive on your stall. Okay. Number 5, my 5th tip is make your pricing clear. First of all, you've got to make sure that you've priced properly so that you make a profit. That sort of goes without saying, but it's worth saying. Make sure you priced it so you make a profit. How do you communicate your prices? So will you have a menu? Are you going to have things at different prices, which is absolutely fine, but make sure that each thing is really clear how much each thing is. Stalls without prices, generally people walk past because they don't want to make the effort of asking, because once they ask, they feel as if they're being, bamboozled or drawn into something they don't really want. They want to be able to see the prices. Okay. Are you going to do a discount for multi-buy? I used to do that. So one was, I don't know, something like $1.50. But if you bought 5, it was, there was a pound off what 5 would cost. Yeah. So think about your discounts, but don't discount so much that you lose your profit. So just make sure that what you're selling at, you're still making a profit on. Okay. And the other thing you can do with pricing, when you get to the end of the day or the end of the market, if you've got stock left, one thing you can do is like discount everything half price, because it's best to get rid of stuff even at cost price and make some money on it than take it all home. So consider having a, however long, if it's a day, if it's 9 till 5 or whatever, and I've done a few of those, at 4 o'clock, I would then, everything left was £1 each, or, you get 2 for the price of 1 or something like that, just to get rid of it. So I didn't want to have to take it home. So consider doing that. That's quite a good way of, of finishing off. I'm talking of pricing. My 6th point would be how a customer's going to pay you. When I used to do markets, it was mostly cash, nearly all markets. Very few traders had card machines. It was quite unusual. But now it's much, much easier to do card machines. There are lots of companies that do it. I got a Square account, and I have a little Square reader, which is a contactless thing. SumUp is a good one that I believe lots of people use. And iZettle, those kind of things. If you want to find out more about that, ask in the group. So I know a little bit about Square because that's what I used, but I know lots of people use SumUp, and I believe there's like refer a friend kind of bonuses for that as well. So do ask in the group if you want to know more about that. Because when I did it, I used a Square, but not very much, and only at the end, so I haven't got much. SumUp at Toolstation at only 50. Oh, right. Okay, there we go. fabulous. So go to Toolstation and you'll find one there. But they're really good, and you don't generally have to pay to sort of have an account. What they do is, if you use it, they take a small percentage. And for my Square account, it really wasn't very much at all. So it's worth doing. And, the convenience of it. And of course, the no cash COVID thing is quite a good thing to do as well, really. If you do use cash, my advice would be to make sure that you've got, this might sound obvious, but it wasn't to me to start with. Make sure you've got a float that contains the coins you need to give the change you need. So, for example, if you're selling something for £1.70, you're going to need 10p and 20p pieces, because people are going to give you £2 or they're going to give you £5. So make sure you've got the change that matches your prices. Okay. Yeah, it took me a while to work that out when I first started. So that was number 6. Number 7. Oh, here we go. Number 7. I'm not going to talk a lot about this one, but number 7 is get your labeling right. I've talked a lot about labeling in the group, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it this evening. And in fact, if you want more, there are more in the guides. I've done lots of talks on this. And if you go to my blog, there's a link to my blog page on labeling as well. So there's lots of information there for you. But basically, if you're selling at a market or a fair, you are selling direct to the customer. If your goods are pre-packed, that's pre-packed for direct sale. That's full ingredients with allergens highlighted. If you haven't pre-packed them and you're packing them up for the customer, that's non-pre-packed and you just need allergen information. Okay. What you do need is a sign that says, ask me about allergens, or put on each product's label the allergens that they contain. So somehow you've got to have some information before the customer buys as to, what allergens are contained in there. If you go to my blog, I've done a little bit of wording on there as well that you can use. All right, so that's labeling. Now, number 8, I think, is quite important. And my 8th tip is have marketing information at hand. So take with you, if you have them, and if you haven't got them, I strongly recommend you get some, either business cards or flyers with your range of products on them. Okay. So if you're selling at a fair, but usually you do treat boxes, or you do birthday cakes, or you even do wedding cakes, then have some information on your table that tells people that. Okay. Have your name prominent, have your logo prominent, so people will see. So even if people aren't going to come up and buy, you are getting into their heads and you're making yourself known. You can even do the, Annie, the brownie lady, or so-and-so, the cookie pie lady, or, something like that to give people a hook into what you do. So that when they're thinking, in a few weeks' time, oh yeah, so-and-so wants cookie pie. Oh yeah, I saw that person at the fair, didn't I? They're the person that I'll go to. So make it easy for them to make connections. This is particularly important at things like school fetes, PTA fetes, Christmas fetes at school and church, because the chances are that at those fairs, you're not going to be able to sell your goods at very high prices. Because generally, on the whole, those are not places where you can sort of sell cupcakes for £3 or anything like that. But what you can do to make up for that, you've got an audience there, particularly at school. You've got an audience of parents. And at some point during the year, most of those parents are going to want a birthday cake from somewhere for their child. So make it really clear on your stall, I also make birthday cakes. Have some pictures, or have a book full of the birthday cakes that you do. Have some pictures up that might attract the children who pull their parents. Oh, look, mummy, I want that cake for my birthday. All those kind of things are really, really useful. So even if you come away at the end of the day and you perhaps haven't sold as many as you'd like, you might have made loads of connections and got lots of future business from just being there and chatting to people. Okay, making connections with your customers is really, really important. I talk a lot about, know, like, and trust. People will buy from people that they know, they like, and they trust. If someone has chatted to you at a school fete or a school fair, and you've learned a little bit about them and they've learned a little bit about you, they're much more likely to buy from you than some, anonymous person on Google. So don't undervaluate, is that a word? Underestimate, that's the word I was looking for. Don't underestimate the power of, making connections at these places, because that's really important. Okay. Oh yes, and I've also put in my blog, make it clear, if you can, the benefits of ordering from you. So for example, you make birthday cakes, say, have something up, something about, let me take the stress of your child's birthday away, or something like that. Because for most parents, making a birthday cake for their child is quite stressful, unless they're good at, or used to making birthday cakes. So you want to say to them something like, let me take the stress of that birthday cake away. I can do that for you. That kind of thing, to make them go, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'll buy into that. Okay. So that's really important. The marketing opportunities at a fair and a fete. I used to sell, as I said, when I first started, things like brownies and flapjacks and cookies and things, but I did get birthday cake orders from people that saw me there every week. And when I was selling cupcakes, I used to get wedding cake orders for cupcakes, 200 cupcakes, so it's as much as sort of an advert, you being there, than actually just selling what you're doing. So treat it as a marketing exercise as well. Okay. Where are we up to? Number 9, we're up to. Number 9. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Number 9, I would say, think about the practicalities of being on your market stall, or wise up to the practicalities. In particular, I mentioned this before, but in particular, find out where the loos are. The number of markets I did in like town centres, and I'd be standing there thinking, oh, I don't know where the loos are. I don't know where to go to the loo. Because if you're in a pedestrian precinct in the middle of a town, it's not obvious where the loos are. Obviously, if you're in a school hall or a church hall, there's going to be one there, so it's not a problem. But if you're doing like an outdoor market, farmer's market, or at something outdoors, just think about that. And also think about, if you do need to pop off, who's going to look after your stall. So just little practicalities. I found that when I was doing the town markets, you get to know the traders around you. On the whole, I don't think I met anyone I didn't like at a market. I'd wander around and, chat and network and all sorts. And generally it would be, I would say to the stalls next door, if you need to nip off to the loo, I'm more than happy just to keep an eye for you. And we'd all do that. So, when you set up at the beginning of the day, say hello to the traders around you, have a chat, and sort of offer, say, oh, if you need to nip off, I'm happy. And then they'll do the same for you. Because it's surprising how people sort of forget about the practicalities of being at a stall all day. I mean, even in a hall for a PTA fair, if it's, an all day Christmas fair on a Saturday, you will need a break. You're not going to be able to stand at your stall all day. So make sure there's a way of you having a break and going away, and things happening while you're away. Okay. Oh yes, and think about, refreshments. I always used to take a flask. In fact, if I did a whole day, it would be 2 flasks of tea. So I knew I had my tea all day. Some fairs, particularly indoor ones, You know, in the school hall or the church hall, they've got the hatch with the tea going on. Some markets would say, oh yes, it's free for traders, so just help yourself. So just check that out, but take water with you, take something to, you know, don't be without food and drink all day. Make sure you've got something with you because it's important. Okay. And I think we're up to number 10. So number 10, I would say, excuse me, I'm just going to have my tea. That's not number 10, by the way. Number 10 would be to evaluate afterwards. So, you know, a couple of days afterwards or a week afterwards, whatever, not too far ahead though, because you forget everything. Have a think about how the market went. Have a think about, you know, the benefits it had. Have a think about the, you know, the disadvantages. Obviously, the profit that you make is going to be a big factor in that one. But the other factor is, how many people did I chat with? Did I get my name out? You know, was it worth doing? And then you can decide, well, you know, if it's like a weekly market that you've just started, am I going to do it again? Those kind of things. I would say with, you know, a weekly town market, you've generally got to give it a few weeks until people know you before you start really being successful. New stalls at markets, and traders will say this when you go there. They'll say, oh, people need to get to know you a little bit before they start really buying from you. But if it's, you know, a one-off, you might think, well, you know, next year, will I do this again? I'm not sure. Or definitely, yes, I will, because it was brilliant, you know. So think about all the factors and evaluate it. Has it been good for your business? Because that's the bottom line. Yeah. The benefits to your business that market has had. Yes, it might have been a nice day with some of your school friends, you know, but at the end of the day, if you made no profit and didn't network with anybody, was it a good use of your time and your business time? Okay. So those are my 10 tips. Now, the thing that often people ask, and I haven't included this in the blog because this is a really difficult question to answer, is how much should I take with me? That really is a difficult one. It's sort of one of those, is as long as a piece of string kind of things. It really depends a lot on factors that you don't know. If it's like a school Christmas fair or a, you know, Christmas fair in your town, you might not necessarily know what the footfall is. The footfall, that's the sort of phrase for how many people go. Footfall. Traders love using that. Oh, there's not much footfall today. If it's a market that you're familiar with, so, you know, you have your Christmas market in your town every year, and this year you're thinking of trading there, you're going to have some kind of an idea of how many people go. If it's really busy, think about, well, if I sold, you know, 5 things every 10 minutes, how many would I need for the whole time I'm there? Yeah. It's probably better, let me think about this, it's probably better to underproduce and sell out than to make far too much and take it all home with you. Probably. Okay. For regular markets, once you've done a couple of weeks, you sort of get into the, oh yes, I can sort of do an average of how much I need. But even then, I used to find 1 week I'd sell out and think, right, I'll bring more next week. Next week, I'm left with half of it. So you can never really tell. But doing the, you know, the discount at the end of the day is quite a useful thing if you're left with lots. At least you get the cost price back. So the how much should I make question is a tricky one. But think about the hours that you're there. And then, yeah, how many, if I sold 5 things in 10 minutes, or if I sold 10 things in half an hour, or, you know, try and work it out that way. But there's no real hard and fast rule for that one, I'm afraid. And there's no sort of perfect answer. You need to think about what your taking and the profit that you'll make. I mean, there's no point in baking loads of things and all the things that you have together, I don't know, will only make you a profit of £10. That's pointless, isn't it? You know, you want to make enough to make a bigger profit than that. So, you know, have that in your calculations as well. Okay. So there we are. If you've got any questions, now is the perfect time while I'm here live. If you're watching this on replay and you have questions, do ask a question. If you tag me in, I will be notified and then I'll notice it. Sometimes people ask questions and I don't see it for weeks because I'm not notified, because Facebook's bonkers like that. So do tag me in and I will try and answer for you, or just put a post up in the group and ask, and tag me in and I'll see it there. Okay, because I'm more than happy to answer questions. I mean, similarly, if you put it in the group, there are other people that have got more recent experience of markets and fairs than I have, so they might be able to help you as well. So do ask, because that's what this group is for, you know. New ventures that you haven't tried yet, try it out, get as much advice as you can and just go for it, and then see afterwards, you know, what you might need to tweak, what you might need to change, and whether you actually do it again. So that's the nature of things, isn't it? New things. All right, then, there we are. So by now, I think I scheduled it for 8 o'clock. There should be a link to my blog in the group that's got links to insurance people, the risk assessment. There's a link to that. There's a link to my labeling information as well. I think that's it. I can't remember if there's anything else. I can't remember. But there we go. So that should be fairly useful for you. Oh, you're welcome, Alex. Thank you very much. But yes, as always, if you need to know anything or you need to ask anything more, please do ask, because that's what this group is for. And if I don't answer, just tag me and nag me, because I will answer eventually. I don't get offended by people who are insistent. You know, I appreciate that people want to know things and they need to know things, so not a problem at all. All right then, my lovelies, I'm off to have some brownies and custard now. Hey, pudding time. So have a good week. Oh, now next week, I had put in my emails and on the schedule that next Wednesday I will be talking about, what did I say? Growing an audience. Oh, you're welcome, Kim. But I realised that actually next Wednesday evening I'm in London at a business networking party. Get me, eh? So I will do Waffle Wednesday on Tuesday next week. It'll be Waffle Tuesday. Okay. So I will talk about growing audience and that kind of thing then. And the other thing I was going to say before I go is I'm giving out a few freebies in my emails this month as a sort of countdown to 2022. So you might find there's a link to it in the group somewhere, or on my Instagram or Facebook. You'll see links to how you can get hold of these little freebies that I'm doing, little downloadable things for you. Okay, so there we go. So that's what that is all about. All right, I'm going to go now and let you go. Thank you so much for joining me. It's nice to talk to people. Have a lovely week, and I will see you next Tuesday for Tuesday Waffle next week. All right, take care. Happy caking. Oh, you got, oh, well done. Fabulous. All right, then, I will see you next week. Bye. Ooh.